Right. Okay. We're here in sunny southeast Queensland here in Australia, and we've got ourselves probably one of the best situations in the world with the years 2021, 2020, 2021. In look, low population, big area. You can find some pretty good isolation. We're in a bus. If you caught the introduction, that's not the dirty laundry, clean. And we air the dirty laundry on this platform. We're here in a lot of space and a lot of time, giving ourselves the opportunity to see what's happening from a bit of a distance. And part of that has been being forewarned by certain circumstances which we have discussed over many levels, and where predictions can come from. That stuff goes back to the Mesopotamians and the Mayans and the Incas and the Egyptians but the Old Testament and things like that. So look, when we're going to be dealing with topics like environment, the world itself, I like them to probably fit into those references, but what we're going to want to deal with is certain things that are quite relevant today to start to question, so that we can do some more research on our own behalves. One of those things might be in relation to how does someone mediocre in their own perspective, such as myself, manage to make such vast, bold predictions that continue to unravel to the date to a degree. Now, this is not a unique case. Astrologers around the world have been finding these references to dates. Astrology is the tool of billionaires. Give you a rough idea of the reference that it applies. And with a big background in sustainability, permaculture, biodynamics, organics, all things involved in the ethics behind it all, there's been a big power play in relation to how I understand the impact on this planet from a planetary level. Being we are what we eat, how we respond, and water and all the other things condensed, it's relevant for us to consider that we're a part of a much bigger range of frequency and power, magnetic forces and rotation alignment. And when we allow that to be a part of our existence and understanding, we might take a look at why certain things begin to happen. Now, I'm not going to rethink the whole what happened on the 12th of January 2020 and why was it predicted, and then why have other key dates been predicted and why have certain things occurred in those times. Well, there are cycles in history, as are planetary alignments roving through the constellations and having a reference regarding the planetary frequency and the energy in relation to it aligned with the constellations reference, and then ultimately as well where that might be in the wheel of life that is represented throughout space and time. So complex as that is, it's just left best to want to understand and to pick up more information and understanding as you go. And there are some great books for it. There are some great references in relation to understanding on YouTube channels, obviously. What we want to be able to do is start to see the biggest picture for everyone to be able to recognize how finely tuned and ultimately granular that these relationships to what's occurring. Now, it's not that one might think the planets are forcing this upon us. However, the energy of planets and what they represent, whether they are in conjunction, whether they are trine, whether they have got reference to being in opposition or working together with one another, they give us a reference in the decisions of where people make their decisions, the timing of it. And that's something that our engineers in society are constantly engaging in. So we need to be able to see where the world is placing ourselves in the planetary perspective, enabling that to be moved on with an understanding of certain times and dates that we might want to be aware of, and certain references as to why we might want to be aware of them for our greater advancement, for our restriction of self, for our choices in business or in communication, to our decisions to step away. And the opportunity amongst all of that is a forewarning, which makes a big difference. It makes awareness, which shouldn't lead to a paranoia. That just means that we're not quite educated enough in terms of what the awareness brings to us. So there's differences in how the perception of information changes one's physiology and the psychology behind it. Staring in the face of adversity and laughing is the ideal reference. The fight or flight is a reaction to more of a desperation and a lesser understanding of what might be more important to take on in a situation. So again, news, education, where do we get it from? Do we take it from a source? Do we collect it ourselves? Are we listening to it from our friends or some nut like me on YouTube who thinks he knows everything? Well, it's a mix of it, isn't it? Like, let's take a look at what is being said. What isn't being said in mainstream news? The politicians have a lot to offer in terms of communication. Well trained in the art of deception, essentially the art of war in communication. And there's a heightened arrogance amongst the confusion that they apply in the way that their lingo dissolves an understanding within the minds of the masses. Now, if you want to know how I know this, it's probably going to be in some other video, but it's not really about what got me to this situation, although maybe you do care, and that's okay. It's more about the regard to, do we not know that these elements, we can trust few politicians to do what they say and to not do what they say they won't do, and to decide the angle in which they're going to create for the people in their camp. Now, we've all got mates and we'd do anything to help them, and why would they do anything different? So, politicians are politicians. They've never been politicians as long as the companies have been to deliver an opportunity to bring life to themselves. Those corporations are ancient. The capacity of continuous ownership, such as the major 4 shareholders of banks in Australia, are all the same people. We have this interconnectedness that makes it very difficult for the masses to step in and actually make some kind of a difference through any of the back doors that might be aligning themselves. And so essentially it's about taking it on from the front. Now, politically speaking, what are we going to do? We're going to try and change the political system. I'm not sure if we actually have the time. And I'd say most people don't have the energy, because collectivism doesn't really work. But we don't want you out there getting arrested either in the process of it, and we know that that's a very high possibility. So some of the solutions in relation to it, and we'll be discussing these things like boycotting, the opportunity of activism in submissions, the idea behind writing to Parliament, writing to politicians. What can happen if we don't do it? And why would someone else want to do it if we're not going to do it? And how do we choose with our dollar as to what we're going to buy or what we're going to be sold? What are our lifestyle costs? Where is sustainability? And can we achieve it in our current state of consumption as Western nations and those wanting to be Western nations that are even more impact? It doesn't stop. However, if the potential of awareness, it can be reduced, it can be conscious, and it can be designed where we have that chance to live within our means and share with what our resources are and barter where we can and avoid what we know is not for our higher self. And so that's what the opportunity is in 2020 and beyond, which of course now we are, and yet everything is still well up in the air. So while I'm not going to try and talk about CVs and how long they are or whether they're 19 or 20 or 21, and I don't want to be mentioning the idea of what a fact scene might be, some kind of injection of knowledge, and that's what we aim to achieve on this platform. The world is being told lots of information, and the opportunity to put it together as spoken independently as opposed to spoken scriptedly gives us a bit more opportunity to see what might be going on, what might be fact or fiction, what might be future, or what might be distraction. So this year is not small, and it has been a source of prediction on levels that may or may not be apparent to people in this exact moment, but with an environmental extreme existence that this planet and every nation and ocean and culture are experiencing, amongst the volatility in finances, equity markets, cryptocurrencies, quantitative easing, there are several other social factors that are intertwined in relation to the variety of impacts that we are going to have as we are one on this rock floating around the sun. So a little bit more detail, completely scripted. Thanks to the higher spoken principles, we are going to sign off and dig into some finer details as us in our bus mellow coexist here on the moon for you. Subscribe below, tell your mates, spread it around the world. It's global philosophy. Till then.